When you stop giving them attention, you don't become invisible. You become unforgettable. Ever noticed how they only start missing you when you stop caring? When you were always there, they barely noticed, but the moment you pulled back, the silence suddenly became too loud for them to ignore. Funny how that works, isn't it? Hey folks, imagine this. You're a fireplace in the middle of winter, warm, steady, always there. People come close, feel comforted, maybe even take a seat. But after a while, they stop saying thank you. They stop noticing the heat. They walk in and out, leaving the door open and letting in the cold. Until one day the fire goes out, no explanation, no warning, and suddenly the entire room feels empty and cold. That's what your attention is like, a warmth they didn't know they needed until you stopped giving it. Let's break the biggest lie they told you, that if you love them harder, try more, and show up all the time, they'll love you back. The truth is, the more you overgive, the more invisible you become. That's the painful part. You were consistent, loyal, and available, and they thought that meant you'd never leave, that they could treat you however they wanted, and you'd still be there with your heart wide open. But my friends, attention is energy, and energy is currency. Just like real currency, when you throw it everywhere, it loses value. You were out here spending your emotional paycheck on people who didn't invest a single dime back. And when you finally stopped, when you took that attention back, it shocked them. Not because they loved you more, but because they didn't realize how much they depended on you until your energy was no longer available. You see, most people don't want love. They want attention. And when you stop giving it, they confuse the silence with loss. Suddenly, they miss you, not because they finally appreciate you, but because the emotional meal ticket they were feasting on has been cut off. That's not love, that's hunger. The Stoics figured this out a long time ago. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When your thoughts are always about them, your soul dims. But when you redirect your focus back to yourself, when you stop chasing and start choosing, you rise. You stop being an option and become the mystery, the one that got away, the one they can't quite replace. And here's the fun twist, folks. When you stop giving them your light, they finally realize how dark it feels without you. You don't need revenge. You don't need closure, just silence. That's your power move. Because in a world obsessed with attention, your detachment is rebellion. And nothing makes you more unforgettable than the moment you disappear from the places you were once taken for granted. So from this point on, remember this. You are the fire. Not everyone deserves to sit at your flame. Choose wisely, give wisely, love wisely, and when necessary, pull back and protect your peace. Write this in the comments if you're with me. Attention is power. And hey, don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button. This journey is just beginning. The power of your attention, what you give freely, will never be valued fully. Let's be honest. Most people don't recognize the power you hold until you stop giving it. Your attention isn't just about glances and replies. It's energy, presence, and life force. But the world conditioned you to believe that giving more meant you cared more, that if you loved harder, showed up louder, and stayed longer, they'd see your worth. That's the first lie we've got to break. Picture this. You're a lighthouse, steady, bright, always shining. Ships come and go, and you guide them safely every time. No questions, no thanks, just expected. Until one night, the light goes out. No warning. Now the sea feels darker, the rocks feel sharper, and suddenly your presence becomes unforgettable. That's what happens when you pull back your attention, when you stop being the emotional lighthouse for people who never once asked how you were holding up. It shakes their reality. But for you, it terrifies you at first, because pulling back feels like you're walking into a storm without a compass. Questions swirl in your head like cold wind. What if they forget me? What if they move on? What if I lose them forever? You've been wired to believe that silence equals loss, that if you're not constantly showing up, constantly proving your worth, you'll be replaced. That fear, that's not your truth. It's your trauma. It's the residue of being overlooked, underestimated, and unappreciated. And now silence feels like punishment. But my friend, silence is not punishment, it's power. And you're just beginning to see how powerful you actually are. Here's another truth they never told you. People only value what they have to earn. When your attention is always there, it becomes air, necessary but unnoticed. But the moment you stop giving it, it becomes gold, rare and missed. Why is it hard to stop giving? Because deep down you still think your worth is proven through what you give others. Because you were taught that love means sacrifice, that silence means abandonment, and that attention is the only way to stay connected. But that mindset, that's what kept you small. That's what made you forget that you were the prize all along. Epictetus once said, "He who is not master of himself is a slave." Every time you give away your attention carelessly, you're surrendering your power. You let someone else decide how you feel, how you act, how you show up in the world. But when you start holding back, when you start choosing where your attention goes, with intention, not desperation, you're no longer reacting, you're leading. That's self-mastery. Think about it. You gave them all of you, your time, your thoughts, your words, your energy, and they didn't flinch. But the moment you go quiet, they start checking their phones more. They start asking mutual friends how you've been. They start feeling the emptiness they didn't expect. That's not because they suddenly found their heart. It's because they finally noticed what yours was doing for them all along. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable at first. Pulling back when you're used to pouring out feels unnatural, but you're not here to be natural. You're here to evolve. And evolution requires tension, silence, and space. The kind of space that allows them to realize who you were, the kind of space that allows you to remember who you are. So if you're standing at that edge today, ready to stop giving where it's not respected, just know this. The moment you stop giving is the moment they start noticing. The moment you let go is the moment they start holding on. And even if they don't, you've already won because you took your power back. You are not a vending machine of validation. You are a force, a presence, a standard. And your attention is proof of that power. Use it wisely. Type it in the comments. My attention has value. Show yourself, show them, show the world that you're no longer handing out gold to people who only brought pennies. And stay with me, because what's coming next will show you exactly why your silence creates more gravity than any words ever could. Sometimes the loudest thing you can say is nothing at all. When you stop giving attention, it doesn't just go unnoticed. It sends shockwaves. You don't just leave a gap, you create a void. And here's what they won't admit out loud. That void haunts them. You were their comfort, their emotional cushion, their invisible safety net. And when that net disappears, they fall into uncertainty, and it stings. It's like taking away a song they've played on repeat every day. At first they don't notice. Maybe they hum the tune out of habit, but soon the silence sets in, and it feels too loud, too empty, too unfamiliar. That's the withdrawal effect. It's not about revenge. It's not about making them suffer. It's simply the natural result of pulling back what you used to give so freely. But let's talk about you for a second, because this part isn't always easy. You'll ask yourself, am I doing the right thing? What if they move on? What if they never come back? And those questions, that's fear talking. Fear of losing something you were never meant to chase in the first place. Fear of being forgotten by someone who only remembered you when you were pouring yourself out. But here's the uncomfortable truth, my friend. If your presence was only valued when you were giving endlessly, then your absence is the only teacher that will ever wake them up. You've become their routine. And people don't miss routines until they're broken. You texted good morning. You asked how their day was. You showed up even when they didn't. And the worst part, they started expecting it, not appreciating it, just expecting it. Then one day, you stopped. And now that phone doesn't buzz the way it used to. That emotional warmth is gone. It's not anger they feel, it's confusion, it's discomfort. It's the withdrawal from attention they thought they'd always have. You see, attention is like emotional sugar, sweet, addictive, and easy to overdose on. And when you pull it away, they go into a craving spiral. They start replaying old messages. They wonder if something's wrong. They scroll through your social media looking for clues. You've created a mystery without lifting a finger. You've taken your energy back without saying a word. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. That's what you're doing right now. You're taking power back, not by controlling others, but by mastering yourself. You're resisting the urge to explain, to chase, to fix. Because deep down, you know if someone truly valued your presence, they wouldn't need your absence to realize it. But it's going to hurt a little. Not because you miss them, but because you miss the version of yourself that felt needed. You miss being the one who showed up, the one who gave without limits. And that's okay. You're shedding an old skin. You're walking away from a pattern, not a person. So when the silence gets heavy, breathe. They feel it too. They just don't know how to say it. And when their mind starts spiraling, when they start wondering what happened, when they feel that ache they can't explain, know that it's not punishment, it's clarity. Your silence is revealing the truth. They were addicted to the attention, not connected to your soul. And now that they can't reach you like they used to, they're finally forced to confront what your presence really meant. Let them feel it. Let them wonder. Let them sit in the silence they used to ignore. And while they do, you keep rising, because this is where your power begins. Not in what you give away, but in what you choose to protect. Write this in the comments if you feel it. My silence speaks volumes. Let them see it. Let you see it. And show the world that your value doesn't disappear when you go quiet. It echoes. Now, let's talk about comfort, which is the real enemy. They didn't lose interest because you changed. They lost interest because they got too comfortable. Comfort is not as soft and harmless as it seems. In fact, comfort is what slowly kills connection. It turns fire into flickers. It turns deep appreciation into shallow routine. And the scariest part? They didn't even mean to take you for granted. They just got used to you always being there. You became a habit, a daily constant, the one who always showed up, always answered, always checked in, like background music. They enjoyed it, sure, but they stopped hearing it. And the moment you lower the volume, everything shifts. Think of it like this. Imagine a warm bath. At first it feels amazing, relaxing, and comforting. But stay in it too long and you stop feeling the warmth. You get used to it. You take it for granted until the water turns cold, and suddenly you're uncomfortable again. That's what happens in relationships built on unbalanced effort. The warmth becomes expected, not appreciated until it's gone. And when you finally pull back, they feel the chill. But here's the part they won't say out loud. They liked how available you were. They liked having you on standby, always ready to validate, always quick to comfort. It gave them a sense of control, a cushion. And the moment you remove that comfort, you disrupt their emotional stability. Now they're unsettled. Now they're asking questions they never thought they'd ask. Why aren't you texting first? Why haven't you checked in? Did I do something? Are they moving on? And that panic. That's the beginning of realization. They thought you were permanent. They didn't realize you were a choice, a privilege, not a promise. But let's be real. It wasn't easy for you to pull back. You hesitated. You second-guessed. You cared. And that's what makes you strong, because it takes strength to walk away from comfort too. You were comfortable in the giving, in showing up, in being the one who tried. But you realized something dangerous was happening. Your presence was being consumed like air, needed but never noticed. And that's not love, that's dependency. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And how much time have you wasted giving yourself to someone who thought your attention was endless, who got so used to your love that they stopped feeling the impact of it? Comfort numbs. It blinds people to the value of what they have until discomfort wakes them up. That's why your silence shakes them. It's the first time they've had to ask themselves what your presence was really worth. You didn't change. You didn't stop caring. You just stopped making it easy. And that shift breaks the illusion. It forces them to realize they were floating in the warmth of your effort without ever returning it. Now they're uncomfortable. And that discomfort is your greatest ally. Because people grow in discomfort. They reflect, they feel, they finally see. And even if they don't come back, even if they never say it out loud, you've done something powerful. You've made your absence undeniable. So don't chase comfort. Don't fall for the lie that being consistent means being a doormat. You can be loyal without being predictable. You can be kind without being taken for granted. Your job is not to be the never-ending source of peace for someone who refuses to offer you the same. Your job is to protect your energy, even if that means shaking up someone else's comfort zone. Because real value, real love, is not built in comfort. It's built in mutual effort, mutual awareness, and mutual presence. And if that's not being given back, step away. Type it in the comments. I'm not your comfort zone. Let them read it. Let them feel it. And more importantly, let you believe it. Because what's coming next will open your eyes to how emotional scarcity doesn't make you cruel. It makes you unforgettable. When something is always available, it loses its meaning. When it becomes rare, it becomes unforgettable. Let's talk about something most people will never admit. They don't truly appreciate what's always within reach. They say they value you. They say they care. But the truth is, many don't start feeling your worth until you become harder to reach, until your presence goes from constant to rare. That's the scarcity principle. And whether you realize it or not, your attention follows the same rule. You were always there, always one text away, one call, one check-in, one more effort they didn't even have to ask for. You made things easy, predictable, and safe. But somewhere along the way, they stopped seeing you. Not because you weren't enough, but because you were always there. And in their mind, that meant you always would be. They didn't cherish your attention. They counted on it. It became background noise. It became routine. And the problem with routine is this: it stops feeling special. Just like a sunrise, they stop looking at it. Not because it's not beautiful, but because they think it'll always be there tomorrow. That's how people treat your energy when they believe it has no limits. But when you pulled back, when you stopped replying right away, stopped checking in, and stopped making them the center of your emotional world, everything changed. Suddenly your silence echoed louder than your words ever did. The absence of your attention hit harder than any argument. Now they're feeling something they didn't expect. Loss. Not because you attacked them, not because you hurt them, but because they no longer had access to what they once consumed freely: you. And here's the mind-twisting part. Your attention didn't change. The person you are didn't change. The only thing that changed was its availability. And that's when they started craving it. It's the same way we treat luxury. When water flows from the tap, we waste it. But in a desert, a single drop becomes priceless. That's how your attention works. When they had it all the time, it felt like nothing. But now that it's gone, it feels like everything. Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." When your attention is constantly given, it feels like an overflowing cup. But when you pull back, when you make it intentional, it becomes a treasure. Something they want but can no longer demand. Something they feel but can no longer control. And yes, it will confuse them. It will bother them. They'll wonder why the change. What happened? Who are they talking to now? That's not your problem. That's the scarcity principle doing its work. That's the realization creeping in. You were the prize all along. They just didn't see it until access was denied. Now they feel it, the silence, the emotional distance, the energy you once gave without hesitation. Gone. They'll try to replay the old moments, revisit the old conversations, but it won't feel the same because they're no longer entitled to you. And nothing hits harder than realizing what you had wasn't guaranteed. Let's be real, it's not easy to create scarcity, especially when your heart is wired for connection. When you care deeply, it feels unnatural to pull back. It feels cold. It feels wrong. But my friend, it's not cruelty, it's clarity, it's self-respect. It's choosing quality over quantity because your energy was never meant to be handed out like samples at a grocery store. It's meant to be valued, respected, and earned. And if they don't appreciate it now, that's fine. Let the silence speak for you. Let your distance teach the lesson your presence never could. You've tried giving everything. Now try giving less and watch how much more powerful you become. Write it in the comments. Less is more. Let it be your reminder, your affirmation, your declaration. Show yourself, show them, show the world that you finally understand your worth and you're done handing it out like it means nothing. The moment you stop seeking their approval is the moment you take your power back. Let's get something straight. Attention is never just about attention. It's about energy. It's about validation. It's about power. And the moment you stop giving yours away like candy on Halloween, the whole dynamic changes. The game flips. The one who was once in control starts to feel uncertain. And that's when they start to notice you in a way they never did before. Because here's what most people don't realize. When you constantly offer your attention, your time, your energy, you're handing over more than affection. You're handing over power. Every text you send, every double message you justify, every moment you break your own boundary just to be there, that's not just love, that's surrender. And you don't even realize you're doing it until you stop, until you go quiet, until you stop chasing. It's like being in a tug of war. You've been pulling with all your strength, trying to hold on, trying to keep the connection alive. But the moment you drop the rope, they stumble. They lose balance because your energy was doing all the work. You were carrying both sides of the emotional weight, and now you've let it fall. Now they're confused. Why aren't you reaching out? Why don't you seem bothered? Why do you feel so calm? You see, that's when the power shift begins. When your detachment starts speaking louder than your devotion ever could. They don't know how to respond to the new version of you, the one who's not begging for clarity, the one who's not trying to prove their worth through constant effort, the one who simply stopped showing up like before. That shift in energy isn't just noticeable, it's magnetic. Because the more emotionally independent you become, the more emotionally dependent they start to feel. And no, it's not about manipulation, it's about balance. Because let's be honest, what you were doing before wasn't balance. That was emotional overcompensation. That was you giving and giving while they just sat back and received. But when you stopped, everything they thought they controlled started slipping through their fingers. Marcus Aurelius once said, You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. And that's exactly what's happening when you pull your attention back. You're no longer giving them the power to decide how you feel, how you show up, or whether you sleep in peace at night. You're not checking your phone every 5 minutes anymore. You're not losing sleep over one-word replies. You're not bending over backward to fix things they didn't even try to understand. Because now you've shifted from being reactive to being in control. And here's the twist. They start chasing the very thing they once overlooked. Not because you've done something different, but because you've reclaimed the most valuable thing they ever had access to, your presence without pressure. Let them wonder. Let them feel the uncertainty you used to live in every day. That's not revenge. It's reality correcting itself. It's the energy balancing. It's the silence showing them exactly what your attention was worth. But don't expect applause. Don't wait for a thank you. Most people only realize your value once you've stopped trying to prove it. And even then, they might not say a word. But you'll see it in the hesitation in their replies, in the sudden check-ins, in the way they try to reinsert themselves into your world without acknowledging what they lost. Let them smile. Stay calm. You've already won. Because the truth is, power doesn't scream. It doesn't beg. It doesn't chase. Power whispers. Power watches. Power walks away when it's not respected and doesn't flinch when they finally notice the silence. Write this in the comments if you feel it deep. I've taken my power back. Say it loud. Say it for yourself. Say it for the version of you that used to hand it all away, just to feel seen. And stay with me, because in the next section, we're diving into the very thing that starts pulling them in even harder, the mystery they can't solve. You're becoming unforgettable, and we're just getting started. They weren't bored of you. They were bored of how easy it was to access you. Let's get one thing straight. People don't fall in love with what they fully understand. They fall in love with what they can't quite figure out. That's where the real pull is. The mystery, the unknown, the what if. And when you stop giving them all of you, when you stop laying every emotion, every thought, every moment at their feet, that's when the magic begins. See, you used to be easy to read, predictable, always available, always answering, always explaining. And at first, that made you feel connected. It made you feel like you were building something. But what you were actually doing was removing the mystery. You became the open book on their shelf. A great story they stopped reading because they thought they already knew how it would end. But now you've changed the plot. You've stopped replying so fast. You've stopped giving all the details. You've stopped trying to make them understand what you're feeling every second of the day. And that shift, that's what's making them lean in. Because now, you're not a story they've already read. You're a question they can't answer. They feel it, the difference, the energy, the space. You've become unpredictable. And in a world where everyone is shouting to be understood, the person who holds something back, the person who doesn't reveal it all, is rare. That rarity becomes magnetism. They start wondering, why aren't you posting like you used to? Why do your messages feel so different now? Who are you talking to? Are you moving on? Are you better without them? It's not that you're playing games. It's that you've stopped giving access to someone who didn't earn it. That's not manipulation. It's self-respect. And the best part? They don't know how to react to this new version of you. The one who doesn't overshare, the one who's calm, the one who doesn't chase anymore. You've gone from being the comfort zone to being the unknown. And that's what gets under their skin. That's what keeps you living rent-free in their mind. Because humans crave what they can't control, and you, my friend, have become uncontrollable. Seneca once wrote, "Silence is a lesson learned through life's many sufferings." And you've learned it the hard way. You've learned that not everyone deserves to know what you're thinking. Not everyone gets the backstage pass to your emotions. Not everyone is qualified to hear your every thought and struggle. And when you start moving that way, when you become more selective, more reserved, they feel it and they chase it. Why? Because now you're not feeding their ego, you're feeding their curiosity, and curiosity is far more powerful. Ego wants control, curiosity wants connection. When you stop trying to prove yourself, when you stop making them comfortable with your presence, you trigger something primal, the desire to pursue. They thought they had you figured out. Now they don't. Now you're not giving them the same responses. You're not reacting like you used to. You're not explaining your every mood, every move, every silence. And that makes you irresistible, because the less you give, the more they wonder. Let's be real. It took strength to pull back, to stop oversharing, to keep some things to yourself, because you were trained to think that vulnerability meant full exposure, that connection meant constant availability. But that version of you is gone. Now you've learned that not everyone deserves full access to your heart, and those who took it for granted, now they're sitting with questions they don't have answers to. Let them wonder. Let them feel the weight of your silence. Let the mystery linger, because in that space, in that uncertainty, you become something they can't ignore. You go from always there to where did they go? From I know them to I miss them. And that's when the shift happens. That's when the value rises. That's when the chase begins. So type this in the comments right now. I am the mystery. Let that be your new standard. Let that be your strength. Because the most powerful people aren't the loudest. They're the ones who move in silence and let curiosity do the work. And stay with me, because next, we're going even deeper. When you give them space, you're not just creating mystery, you're giving them time to reflect. And that reflection, that's where the real transformation begins. Don't go anywhere. Your silence will echo in places your words never reached. Here's what they didn't see coming: your absence. Not the kind where you vanish out of spite or anger, but the kind that's calm, still, and undeniable. The kind that doesn't slam doors, it just doesn't knock anymore. And that silence, that absence, becomes a mirror they didn't ask for, but one they can't look away from. You see, when you were there, texting, calling, checking in, they never really had to sit with themselves. Your presence gave them a distraction, a comfort, a sense of being wanted, even when they weren't giving anything back. But now the room is quiet. Now the notifications don't come. Now there's no one on the other end holding space for them, and the silence forces them to reflect. They start asking questions. Did I push them away? Were they really that important to me? Did I take their love for granted? These questions come creeping in at 2 a.m. when the world goes still and the mind starts playing reruns. That's when they feel it, not the loss of someone else, but the loss of you, specifically you. Because what you gave wasn't just attention, it was emotional safety, it was connection, it was presence. And when that presence goes quiet, it exposes everything they refused to look at before. Imagine a radio playing softly in the background. You don't notice it until it's turned off. And then the silence is deafening. That's what your absence is doing. It's revealing the truth that was always there, but always drowned out by your effort. You gave them consistency. You gave them care. You gave them more than they probably deserved. And they didn't think twice about it because they thought you'd always be there. But Stoicism teaches a hard truth. Nothing is permanent. And when you begin to live by that truth, you stop forcing yourself to stay where you're not appreciated. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, and your soul, your spirit, has been dyed with exhaustion, trying, hoping, giving. So now it's time for them to sit in the stillness and feel the weight of what they ignored. And here's the beauty of it. You're not saying a word. You're not sending closure texts. You're not posting cryptic stories. You're not begging for recognition. You've simply gone quiet. And in doing so, you've created the perfect environment for truth to grow inside their own mind. People think clarity comes from talking things through. But sometimes the deepest clarity only comes when there's nothing left to say. That's the power of your absence. It speaks, it teaches, it reveals. They remember your laughter now, not because you're around, but because you're not. They remember how you listened, how you supported them when no one else did. They remember how you stayed even when they gave you reasons to walk. And now that you finally did, it hits differently. But let's be honest, this silence wasn't easy for you. It took everything in you not to reach out, not to explain, not to remind them of who you were. But you chose peace over pressure, growth over guilt, strength over sacrifice. That decision, that's not weakness, it's power. Seneca said, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. And what you're doing right now, choosing yourself after being overlooked, that takes courage most people will never understand. Let them reflect. Let them feel. Let them process. That's not your responsibility anymore. You've handed them the gift of solitude, the same gift you gave yourself. And in that quiet space, they'll finally understand it was never just about having someone there. It was about having you there. And they'll realize just how rare that really was. Type it in the comments. My absence is power. Let it be your reminder, your truth, your new standard. Because when they look back on everything they lost, it won't be the conversations or the moments that haunt them. It'll be the silence you left behind. And stay with me, because in the next part, we're going to talk about what happens when that silence starts to echo louder than they expected, when they try to fill it and can't. What you're about to hear will change everything. They don't miss you. They miss the version of themselves they were when your love was holding them together. Let's talk about what really happens in the silence you leave behind. Because the moment you stop giving your attention, the moment you disappear with calmness instead of chaos, they feel it. Not all at once, not right away, but like a delayed ache, quiet at first, then suddenly unbearable. And what do? They search for relief, for distraction, for something, anything, to fill the space you used to occupy. That's the emotional rebound. You were never just someone who talked to them. You were someone who understood them. You were the calm when their life was loud, the peace when their world was chaotic. You were the person they didn't have to explain themselves to. And when that disappears, it doesn't leave an empty space. It leaves an open wound. And the mind, it hates wounds. It can't heal quickly. So what do? They try to numb it. They might reach for someone new or something new, not because they're over you, but because they can't handle the sudden absence of what you used to give so effortlessly. They're not seeking love. They're seeking relief. A band-aid for a cut they didn't know they had until you walked away. And that's what makes the emotional rebound so deceptive. They may look happy, they may act unbothered, but the truth? They're just scrambling to avoid sitting with the weight of your absence. Because if they really sat with it, if they really reflected, they'd have to admit what they never wanted to face. You were the one holding the emotional glue together, and now they're falling apart without even knowing why. See, your silence didn't just leave them wondering. It left them spiraling, trying to figure out what went wrong, where the shift happened, why you're not showing up like you used to. They'll start replaying conversations, overanalyzing texts, reading into your social media. But no matter how hard they try, they won't find the answer out there because the answer was always in the energy you carried. And now it's gone. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And you, my friend, you didn't lash out, you didn't beg, you didn't explain, you just withdrew. And that graceful detachment, that's what's driving them mad, because they expected drama, they expected tears, they expected chase. But instead, you gave them the one thing they couldn't predict: peace. And now they're chasing that peace in other people, in distractions, in anything that mimics the feeling they once got from you. But here's the catch: they won't find it, because the peace you brought wasn't performative. It wasn't surface level. It came from who you are. And that kind of connection, that kind of emotional nourishment, is not something you stumble upon. It's something you lost because you didn't protect it when it was there. So now they're rebounding, not just emotionally, but spiritually, searching for meaning in places that don't speak their language, trying to recreate what you gave them, but ending up more confused, more lost, and more aware of what they let slip through their fingers. But don't take their silence as indifference. Don't take their rebound as healing, because trust me, they feel it. Every time someone new fails to understand them the way you did, every time they smile and it doesn't reach their soul, every time they reach out to someone who doesn't see them the way you did, that's when your name starts echoing in their mind. That's when your energy starts creeping back into their thoughts. Not because you reminded them, but because nothing else compares. And that's the emotional rebound. It's not just about who they run to next. It's about the invisible chase they begin, trying to find something that makes them feel how they felt when you were around. Spoiler alert, they won't find it. Not because you're perfect, but because you were real. So let them run, let them search, let them reach for quick fixes. You stay still, you stay calm, because the longer they search, the more they'll realize they weren't just missing someone. They were missing you. Type it in the comments: "I don't chase, I shift." Let that be your reminder that your value is not proven by how loud you scream, but by how calmly you let go. Let the world see it, let you believe it. In conclusion, your silence isn't empty, it's powerful. When you stop giving attention, you shift the energy, the dynamic, and the story. Let them miss what they took for granted. Protect your peace. Reclaim your worth. If this spoke to you, like the video, subscribe and share it with someone who needs this. Emotionally but spiritually, searching for meaning in places that don't speak their language, trying to recreate what you gave them, but ending up more confused, more lost, and more aware of what they let slip through their fingers. But don't take their silence as indifference. Don't take their rebound as healing. Because trust me, they feel it. Every time someone new fails to understand them the way you did, every time they smile and it doesn't reach their soul, every time they reach out to someone who doesn't see them the way you did, that's when your name starts echoing in their mind. That's when your energy starts creeping back into their thoughts. Not because you reminded them, but because nothing else compares. And that's the emotional rebound. It's not just about who they run to next. It's about the invisible chase they begin, trying to find something that makes them feel how they felt when you were around. Spoiler alert, they won't find it, not because you're perfect, but because you were real. So let them run, let them search, let them reach for quick fixes. You stay still, you stay calm, because the longer they search, the more they'll realize they weren't just missing someone, they were missing you. Type it in the comments: "I don't chase, I shift." Let that be your reminder that your value is not proven by how loud you scream, but by how calmly you let go. Let the world see it, let you believe it. In conclusion, your silence isn't empty, it's powerful. When you stop giving attention, you shift the energy, the dynamic, and the story. Let them miss what they took for granted. Protect your peace. Reclaim your worth. If this spoke to you, like the video, subscribe and share it with someone who needs this.